How's it going, folks? Rob here. Welcome back to the channel. On Forza Horizon 5. I'm going to try and build a racetrack today. Now, I'm Australian, but I'm from Melbourne. I recently discovered an old abandoned racetrack that was in New South Wales in the Blue Mountains, which is west of Sydney. It is called Catalina Motor Park Raceway. They used it mostly in the 60s and 70s with old minis and muscle cars. Not massively big. I'll show you a picture of it now. I think the lap record is like 1 minute, so it isn't very big. There's a few straights. There's a bit of an elevation change, like 50 meters elevation change, but it just looks cool. And it's sad to see old racetracks not being used and overgrown and reclaimed by nature. So I'm going to attempt to recreate it here on Event Lab on Horizon 5. Now, the problem is where the track starts, pit straight, like this. It goes up to the right, up a hill, and then it turns around to the left. As you can see in that picture, it's a shape, kind of like a fidget spinner, the shape of the layout of the track in the valley that it's set in. Now, obviously, I can't then go around and build to the left because I'll go off the cliff and into the water. So I'm going to have to try and do it in reverse. It's just fun. I wish we could place this somewhere else, but you have to kind of start there. Unless there's a way to move it, I don't know, but you kind of just have to start where it is. So I'm going to have to build it in reverse. So I've built plenty of racetracks in the past, but I've never done many with elevation because I can't quite get them right. But we're going to attempt this. Now, it does go straight for a little while, then we're going to have to go up to the left. Now, I've got a video playing in the background. I'm going to go in stages. I'm going to try and get the layout right. And I've got my Monaro GTS because we're in Australia. We've got to do an Australian car because we don't know how long we're going to get them on Horizon 4. Hopefully we get a few more sticking around for when we go to Japan in a couple of months. But all right, let's do this. Now, in the real world, this track is it's kind of like in a little valley in the mountains, in the Blue Mountains, and there's houses and estates and whatnot nearby. But back in the day, it would have been great to have this in your neighborhood. Not going to be happening anymore these days. All right, so we got to go as a gentle kind of slant as we go up the hill we're going to have to go to the left. Normally it goes to the right, but yeah, we can't, like I said before, we can't do that. So we need a track bit that goes up to the left. No, that one, no, that's way too sharp. Hopefully that might be okay, but it's going in the wrong direction. Can I use the other side? Give me a minute. Let me turn this thing around. Obviously, I am no expert at this. It's not going to be to scale. It's probably not even going to look anything remotely like the original track, but I'm going to hope that I can get it close to it. Come on. Where are you? There you are. Let's tilt this thing over. Alrighty. That's a bit too sharp, isn't it? We don't have many tracks that go to the left, or even just general to a corner that is the angle I'm after. Yeah, because there's that one or there's that one. And it's... So maybe what we'll do, we'll use that one. And we'll try and go uphill. I've never really liked making racetracks with mountains in them in Horizon because I can't get them right with the hill. So yeah, it kind of goes here, then it kind of goes straight for a little bit as it's climbing up, and then there'll be a tight kind of flowing right corner at the top. Now, in the real world, this is surrounded completely by trees. It's in a very thick foresty area up in the mountains. I don't know how far up we're meant to be going. It's not going to be to scale. Yeah, well, we'll try. Bit of fun. A while ago, I tried to build the Melbourne Grand Prix track here in Albert Park and just could not get it right. All right, so now we need to do a bend. It needs to be a little bit sharper than that. It's going to be a fun braking area. Now, the real track there doesn't appear to be... I've only seen a few clips. There's some old grainy clips on it on YouTube. because it's been closed since the early 90s, I believe. So it's kind of hard to get a feel for it. Obviously, that's going to be, it's a bit tighter than it is. So let's go that one. And I usually typically build tracks where the track follows itself, if that makes sense. So I can borrow props, which is a good thing with this track because it's the shape of it. It kind of does follow itself a little bit. So you just got to now imagine like it's going to shape like a big fidget spinner. So it's going to go over here, out to there a little bit, come back in, and then out to there, and then loop back onto that. Kind of. So yeah, the track, there's not a lot of really high braking areas. So we're going to try and make the corners a little bit more challenging so you can actually brake. I believe I'm going to go do this completely from memory, and then later on we'll check and see if I got it right. Now I'm pretty sure we go straight for a little bit, and then there's a slight downhill. Let's get rid of that one, and then there's an uphill rise, and then there'll be a tightest kind of left. It is a very narrow track in the real world. Well, it was. Now it's more like a little hiking track people walk their dogs and ride bikes on, which is bloody heartbreaking. What I would give to go back to the day to live in the area when motor racing was more popular and acceptable with the community to an extent. All right, now we're going to have a slight rise here. And then we're going to have a left-hand corner coming up. All right, we're going to try and level this out a little bit. One more. This is going to be a pretty fast track. There's not going to be many corners, which is kind of what that one is, but I'm going to try and make some of the bends a little bit tighter, because yeah, back in the day, there was like a bunch of Minis and Falcons and Mustangs just going absolutely flat chat around this track. It would have been fantastic to watch. And from what I've seen, the layout, if you're sitting towards the grandstand, you're kind of going to see most of the track. With the because it's fairly small and the land is pretty open, so you should be able to see a good portion of the track. Let me do that one again. I want to raise it up a little bit, tilt it fraction, so it's kind of like a slight rise and turn, and then there's a little bit of a dip, so it's going to unsettle some of the cars, and then we climb up again. Let's see how we can go. Like I said, this is not going to be a complete replica. I'm too crap for that. It's just going to be an imitation. And yeah, we'll go from there. Like all old-fashioned racetracks, this one's got various names for every corner, and one of them, I think it's called the Love Tunnel. I got no idea why they called it. There's one of them's like Castrol Straight. I think one of them is something straight like that. Naturally, a lot of corners like that in old racetracks were named after certain sponsors. So yeah, we're going to come up here a little bit and then loop around, and then it's going to have a long straight. We're going to loop around some bends. We're going to make it go up and down a little bit, come back up there, and then come back there. It's a pretty simple layout. If you can imagine like a little star, like a fidget spinner, like those stupid things the kids played with a year ago. Thank God they've gone out of fashion. All right, now let's... This is where we can have a little creative freedom, and we're going to make another rise, have a bit of a mountain pass up here. And eventually we're going to fill it up with grass, and there's going to be a lot of trees, because just like the real track, it was quite a bushy area. What we call the bush down here in Australia just means there's a shite load of trees and you're in the wilderness, basically. And yep, let's start doing another turn. We'll try and make this one a little bit faster, because I think we're carrying a bit of speed up that mountain. Obviously, this will probably be more suited to like an A or a B class race car. I don't think it's going to be way too short for a hypercar, but you can throw one around if you want. Free to do whatever you want. Let's get this around. We're going to have no buildings or anything like that, so we should have a bit of prop room, so we can put down a lot of trees and bushes to make it feel really enclosed. Why did you do that? Let's get you facing that way again. Let's actually get in the car. We'll go for a quick spin. It's a bit awkward because you can fall off the edge easily. I love these cars. So good to see some Aussie cars in the game. Alright, we're going to fly up here. Again, it's not an exact replica of the real thing. It's just an imitation. And we're going in the opposite direction. They got very fast corners in this game, in the real track. We'll just see how it feels. Oh, I forgot to turn. Got to brake a bit early, you dumbass. Alright. There we go. Now, tidy up that bit of track there. It sticks up. You just got to use your imagination that we're going to be in the mountains. There's going to be grass, bushes, trees everywhere. That could be a bit bumpy. Well, in real life, it was a very bumpy track. So maybe we keep it. Might unsettle the cars under hard braking. Who knows? Yeah, at the moment, it looks really ridiculous. It's just bloody tracks hanging in the air. But eventually, once we put the grass down and fences and props and we detail it, put some curbing, it should look all right. Now, we're going to need it to turn around a little bit more and then come back down towards this area and have it turn left roughly around there. But I don't want it to be... We've already got a bunch of straight, so I'm thinking to have this drop right down, kind of like at Bathurst, where we've got the dipper, or like the corkscrew at Laguna Seca. I want to have like a dipper corkscrews winding its way down here, and then have like a slalom, like a windy mountain road working its way all the way around to the corner. So this is your fast hill climb, and on the way down, it's a bit more technical. You got to... Well, that is the plan. It might not work that way. All right, so let's get these roads. We need this to be a little bit more windy, and the corner's a little tighter. This is a good track for that. So I'm going to go one more straight just to level things out a little bit. All right, now we're going to come around here. Not going to be at a massive speed, maybe in third gear in some cars. Let's go one more, just so we can straighten up. And now we're going to start doing our descent from the top of this mountain. It's not massive. The real track, I think it's like a 50 meter. I think I read it was like a 50 meter elevation change from top to all the way around as you go around. So we're going to try and imitate that a little bit here. I don't typically do... Every time I've tried to do a track in this game with mountains, I've always got it wrong. I can't get the tracks to line up correctly and look proper. How much do we want it to drop? We've got the car there, so we'll bring that over and... So yeah, I'm thinking like a really tight, narrow mountain road. Don't want it to descend too much. How about we put a straight in just to... All right, now let's come back around. Let's do another quick straight bit. Wrong node. There we go. All right, let's go 2 just because we can. And the problem is at the end is getting this to link up with the where we started. All right, let's get the car not off the edge and do a quick drive down it just to get what it feels like. That's going to be a bit of... That's a bit of... Ooh, yeah, maybe we'll have to try and fix that. Once I put corners in and tyre walls, you're not going to be able to take that straight. But that's not too bad. There's a bit of a drop-off. The one thing I didn't quite like is this connection. I think that's a little bit too steep. So this one... can we get this in a way where it's a bit even more? Not as well. That's not where I wanted, but yeah, you get the idea. I'm trying to smooth it out a little bit more. This one here, can we drop that a little bit? This is where the track fiddling is... Yeah, I don't like it. Let's start again. Using the controller, it is quite fiddly doing this. And I wish it had a little bit more delicacy to it. This is where I don't like doing mountain roads in this game. I can't get them quite right. I just want it to be a little smoother. Let's get rid of the nodes again. Let's see if we can angle this a little. I don't mind if it's bumpy, because the real track was bumpy, but I just want... the controls with the Xbox controller, it's so twitchy. It's so easy to get it looking a bit off. Alright, let's clean this up somehow. Oh, why did I not release it? There we go. It's a bit awkward looking, isn't it? Oh, don't get the car off the edge. Let's drive back up and see what it feels like. Decent little hill climb on the other way up. This is only a little B class, so it's not overly powerful. Again, I don't mind if it's bumpy, because it kind of simulates the real world track, which is old and bumpy. Not designed for it. Because it's so deceiving, you want to go faster. But once all the props and the fences up there, it's going to feel a bit more enclosed. We're going to have trees everywhere. That'll do for now. I'll go through and clean it up a bit later, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to get at. I don't mind a little bit of a bump, but too much will throw the cars off. All right, so we've got a hill climb descent, which is nice and windy, which should look good once we've finished. So now we're going to get this level with the ground, and we're going to follow the ground for a little bit, and then we'll climb up again and wind around a bit. Again, it's not going to be an exact replica of the real track. But yeah, kind of following the idea. It's a cheap imitation. Just imagine Disney made it. All right, now we got to somehow get this level without it being too rough to drive on. How does that look? We can go for individually and adjust things later. That's a bit crap. Let's see if we can tidy that up. I bet we bring it in a little bit. Again, as you're driving around, you're going to be picking up speed through here, so it's not going to be too noticeable. Hopefully that's smooth enough. All right, let's get that back on. And let's go straight for a little bit. Let's get you up, because I'm going to put grass down. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this eventually, where did it go? Yeah. So this is what I'll be using for my mountain. So these will be on all weird angles around the place to fill in the gaps, and then I'll put trees on it. But the track is going to be driving over this when it's on the ground. How about we turn the node thing off first for that, so it doesn't actually try and connect. Problem is when you select the grass and you place it down, and the first time you put it down, it's always halfway across the map, and you got to bring it across. I know first world problems, but you know. All right, let's get that into place. Now I can already see the track is. This is where my OCD. Everything has to be, you know, looking good. So let's get this lower one fairly level. And then we got to try and get the rest of them level while also not affecting the downhill. Someone who knows what they're doing could do this easily, but I not the best. This is why most of the tracks I build are flat. And because they is using the bumpers on the controller and the triggers, it's just so twitchy. I think it's best we just start from here and do it again. Yeah, it's just a bit too awkward. Let's go from the start again. Let's turn the node back on. We'll get there. This is the fun part of the building the track, is the back and forth, getting it right. So let's angle it a little bit. Start it now. It's going to look like crap, though, when you're driving on it and you see a... Anyway, maybe most people won't notice it, but I know I do. How far are we down from the ground? One more. All right, that's okay. That I'll fix later. All right, we've actually done that a lot better. Good. All right, so we're going to go straight for a little bit. How about we make our own little path for a bit? Just to shake things up a little bit, and that way we can kind of follow where all the props are going to be from the other side of the track. That way we can share, because you only got a certain limit. Hopefully the next game we get a bigger prop limit. All right, let's go along here for a little bit. It's a bit tighter than the real one, but at least we've got a nice little braking zone now. Here I want to go up. Straight away we're going to climb up. Not too high, just a little one. Over a little crest, and then we're going to go actually, I'm going to adjust that slightly so there's not a sudden... We don't go from an incline to suddenly flat. It's going to make the cars go a bit airborne. All right, let's now make a slight bend the other direction. Let me zoom back out and see where we're going. Typically in the real one, it's like a three-pointed star, if that makes sense. So this is eventually has got to go around here and connect up to that, but I want to make it kind of windy a little bit on the way. Some crests and dips. We'll see how we go. Easier said than done, especially when I'm doing the building. We know where we got to go. It's just a matter of how we're going to get there. Let's make it go down a little bit. Now let's make it go... How far over we go? No, we'll make it go that way. Now let's turn this bad boy around. Let's go the little one. Let's try and level it out a little bit. How's that looking? Want a nice little dip. That should be all right. Just got to imagine we're going along a narrow mountain windy path. All right. Now we can have a little straight where the old V8s can build up a bit of speed. How bad's that looking? No, it's not too bad. We'll have it loop around for a little while. Now we'll have a bit of a front straight, so we'll now make this go around to the left. Let's spin the camera around. The layout of the track's usually the easy part. It's all the decorations that come later. That's the part that is the hard part. And the time, not the hard, it's just time consuming. We'll have a nice little dip there again, just to test out the suspension, because we all know how well old muscle cars from the 60s are with their suspension. That's a bit off center, isn't it? We'll see if we can reverse that as we build around with the next corner. All right. Obviously, we can't do cliffs and all that sort of stuff along. I mean, some of you might have made props of it, but because when you build them flat on the ground, you can kind of have, you know, grassy areas, bushes and little shrubs and stuff. But when you're kind of elevated like this, it's a bit harder what you can put along the side of the track. So you kind of have to have fences along the side, which make it feel a little bit more enclosed, but kind of all you can do. There is a bit of a camber to it, isn't there? So let's get the car. We'll have a quick drive along it. Like I said, there's a few spots we need to tidy up. At the moment, we're just trying to get the layout of the track right. The brakes off the edge. Let's try that again. Brake a bit earlier. And maybe a little bit earlier. This car's got pretty... Granted, I'm driving pretty bad, but the brakes, not the best on it. Like all good racers, you'd blame the instrument, not the driver. There's a bit of a drop there. Let's see how this feels. Ooh, that's a rough corner. Helps if you take a bit more of a racing lane. I'm just looking at where they connect, and hopefully they're not throwing the car off too much. Okay. Alright, so we need now this to go down. I'm going to have a really tight right corner, have it wiggle around a little bit, and then link up to the start line over there. Alright, so that's the last climb. Now we need to get back down to the ground. So let's start descending. Let's get a bend in there. Hopefully these aren't too... Trying to keep those smooth so the car doesn't get a bit airborne, because that is definitely not... You don't want that. We'll put a couple of straight sections in. Where are we compared to the ground? Okay, now we'll put a couple of bends in. Wrong way, wrong way. Turn around. Oh, it's so fiddly at times. There we go. Can we adjust that to level it out a bit more? Alright, that's our last dip. Yeah, that's what I don't quite want. How can we make that a bit more straight without it completely ruining the flow? Alright, now let's get you on the ground. Not exactly like the real track was from what I've seen, but it's like I wanted to do, like an imitation. Alright, now we're going to turn around. Build up a little bit of speed down there, but not too much. Now let's do a bit of a tight bend, a bit tighter than the real one, but now we're going to bring it around there. We'll go straight for a couple of spots just to settle the cars, and then we're going to come around again. Because where's the pit straight? Okay, on line with the yellow line. Okay, we'll use that as a reference. And we'll go forward one. Oh, we don't want that. There we go. Why is that dropping down so much? Let's fix that. When did that start? Back here. Let's fix that. Maybe adjust this one slightly. Let's get rid of these for that. Not that much. Guys, these controls are so twitchy. That's going to be elevated over here, isn't it? Yeah, that's going to look stupid. Let's bring it over so the lines line up, because my OCD doesn't go stupid. Let's go... I would like to put a bunch of props down for houses, but yeah, I think we're going to run out of room, because trees can take up quite a bit of room. There we go. Sometimes it doesn't connect, so you have to kind of do that little wonky where you copy it and get rid of the original one. All right, let's have it. Now the hard part is getting it to completely line up exactly with the one that I've started with over there in the distance. It's doing that thing where it's dropping again. I didn't notice. Because when I come around later and put the grass down, it's got to be... Because if I put the grass down, you've got to only got that much room to play with. Plus I've got to put curbs down and fences. So let's make sure this time we're paying... Jesus Christ. Paying attention. All right, let's go straight again. Make sure we're not dipping into the ground. All right, let's do a nice, long, slow one. And hopefully this lines up with the 2 yellow lines. Now we'll put a small one in. At least we got a couple hundred meters now to get it right. We can make little adjustments. We're going to be slightly off, aren't we? Yeah, that's actually not that bad. Compared to normal, that's pretty good. We can adjust those as we're going along. All right, now let's link up. We've got a pretty long straight, so the old cars can fire up the carburetors and burn off some smoke and fumes to get the greenies happy. All right, oh, we need this to be flat. Why are we going up? That's all right. Doesn't matter. We can make it come back down again. Just a tiny little rise. Tree trunks have pulled the track up. That's what it is. All right, let's get this connected. I've never had it line up like this. This is slightly off. We just got to go a little bit to the right. But normally, this is the hardest part of making a track, is getting it to connect perfectly. Let's see if we just make these little kinks here and there. As you're driving along, hopefully you don't notice it, but it's just so we can get it to line up. Last one. All right, let's turn you off. All right. It's a little off, isn't it? Let's tilt it a fraction and then drop it. How's that looking? That's looking a bit better. The car looks quite stupid over there. We've actually done okay. Let's redraw it and we'll do a quick drive around. Now that it's complete, we can get a better feel for it. And get an idea how long it is too. Alright, we've just got to make sure to keep an eye on the braking lines. We don't want to be going off like we did last time. It is nothing like the real thing, but it's paying a little bit of homage to it, just in reverse. Alrighty, let's check this out. We're going to have to brake on the crest. Fast cars are going to have to brake really early on that one. Yeah, these corners here I'm going to have to adjust a little bit. That's quite, you build up a bit of speed through here. You're on the brakes quite a bit. That's good. I like that. It flows really nice. Up into third on the brakes again, down to second. Yeah, brake a bit early for that one. It'll be a lot easier once you start in props and curbs and fences and all the walls and all that sort of stuff. It's going to make it easier. Let's go. How's this feel? Got one more rise. That's a deceiving corner. It doesn't look that, from a distance, that does not look that sharp, but it actually is quite tight. And you do build a bit of speed up going downhill. Oh god, I can't even see where it's going. There he is. Alright, we're at 2.5 Ks already, so it's not overly big. That's what she said. And onto the pit straight. That's not too bad. That'd be like a minute and a half lap with a decent driver going around it. And what am I mounting it or falling off? Alright, let's leave the car there to its private time with the track. There we go. I quite like the layout of that. I'm going to have to adjust a few of the road sections to make it a little smoother. But yeah, once we put the grass down, which I have a prop, which someone else made, which makes it so much easier. So instead of putting that little one down dozens of times, you put one down and they're all connected already. They're all seamless and smooth. They look good together. So we're going to put this one over where we started just so we can It's nice and flat over there. We're going to put fences up and stuff. So there will be a bit of a drop down to the grass because we can't raise it too much because this part over here is flat. I mean, I could raise this up, but whatever. All right, that looks pretty good. There's no point putting the grass anymore anywhere else for now on this side of it because it's all elevated. I'll put another one. Actually, what I'll do, I'll move this one down and then I'll put a second one over here because we'll need, just where that grass is over there, we'll need a little bit more. I mean, I could just do that with the little ones, but let's bring this down a fraction. Good thing about all this grass too, it doesn't use much of your prop count, so you can put quite a lot down. So we'll move this over so we're covering that back corner. And then we'll adjust the other one so it fits. Hopefully this doesn't clip over the track. No, that's good. Awesome. Now we'll bring this one back over. Might have to make another one, but it's simple as pushing the Y button. Now we'll have them connect but not overlap, because when they overlap it looks weird as you're driving past. It has a weird effect sometimes, so I like to get it as close as possible so you can't see the white. So there we go. Why is that risen? I think because I hit the trigger button just touch. There we go. Perfect. And once we put all the decoration around the track, you're not going to notice the drop down as much. But the hard part now is going to be building the mountains to fill in this. So for that, I'm going to use a lot of these little smaller grassed areas and angle them in a way. We've got to do it in a way where it doesn't look crap. This is where it's a bit fiddly. So what I was getting at is something like that. Like, hang on, just use your imagination. Just imagine a bunch of these on the ground, filling that up. And then I'm going to have a few angled in a way. This is rough. I'm going to fix it. Just using this as an example, and then using these from here to there as like a hill. And once you put the fences and the trees, you're not going to see it. The top track here on the outside will probably have, I'm not sure what fence I'll use yet. Depends on how many props I can put down. Ideally, because of the track and the location at the time in Australia, you would have fences like that all the way around. So you can imagine that all on the outside, and then the real track, there's a bit of a ravine because it's a hilly area in the foresty section. I usually use a track fences like this one, which is like the NASCAR track, because it's good to fill in the gaps and the void so you can't see over the edge and see all the vastness of this outside world. So the other thing I'll be putting around quite a lot is, where's my trees? There's the curbs I'll be using for later. Against that one, isn't it? Yeah, that'll do for now. So all the way around the track, I've got a few different types of these. It'll be all the way around on both sides. So it's going to be really enclosed in like a forest racetrack. What are we up to now? 38 minutes. I'm having it took me that long just to do this. All right, so this is what I mean by the track kind of following itself, where you can share props. It makes it a lot easier because the trees do take up a lot of space. See? Up to 29%. So you can copy them and use them again. How much does it go up the second time? Not much. So yeah, the plan is to completely enclose this in. Building the mountains for this area with that technique, it's going to take a little while. Once you put fences and stuff in there, it's going to look pretty good. At the moment, I'm happy with the layout of the track. I think we've done a good job for now. We've got to tidy up a few areas, but we'll do that towards the end now. We've got to decorate it, but I think we'll do that in the next video because that's taken quite a while to do that. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Best of all, the New South Wales government can't shut it down. Don't want to jinx it with our lovely governments we have in this country at the moment. But anyway, I'm Rob. I don't want to jinx that shit. that is pretty good. So that is the build. Next video, we'll decorate it. Might fast that video, like speed it up, because this is going to, the decorating is the part that takes the longest. That part takes a few hours, and I'm quite pedantic with the decorating. So yeah, we'll leave it at that for this time around. I'll save that, and then in a day or two, I'll quickly do the decorating and put it up in the next video. Then I'll share it. You can all drive around it and crash and see how it goes for you. But so far, I quite like it. I've actually done a track with some hills. Once it's complete, hopefully it's drivable. So far, well, it looks stupid. It's just tracks hovering in the air, but until then, I think it's going to look good once we decorate it. So I'll see how I go in the next one. I'm Rob. Cheers for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Later.